do you see the SWIFT system surviving this whole thing or not?
Not as we know it. It'll evolve. And it's because of the fight between the United States Treasury and everybody else.
What do you think of John Deere wanting to sell pickup trucks at $15,000? What do you think that will do to the market?
That's not as much as we're spendthrift here in America. We're used to certain things, and we don't want the very cheapest thing out there.
And I haven't asked you this question in a long time. There's still a shitload of people out there that believe that you are JFK Jr. A lot of people, okay? And I mean, do you believe that this guy's still alive if it's not you?
There's a reason why things evolved the way they did. And I never tried to push anything like that or anything, but I think I'll leave that for
another show.
Let's let that one ride for the time being.
Okay. You want to answer that question?
Well, we will in time.
Are you hinting at the fact that he might still be alive? What's going to get real hot in 2026 that we should be aware of? Do you have any forecasts? Should we buy a lot of food? Should we have our generators? Should we have, 100 gallons of diesel fuel? Should we have, a lot of ravioli on stock, etc.?
Going to see a lot of drama. Some of it's warlike. Some of it's people that are sent here to disrupt us. Our near-death experience as a country is yet ahead of us.
I think it's important at some point that you let the cat out of the bag of what you know.
It'll be a while.
Okay. Skip to Tina Peters.
Tina Peters is still in prison tonight, despite President Trump claiming he's pardoning the Colorado clerk convicted of election tampering. There was a lot of commotion around the La Vista Correctional Facility in Pueblo this evening, where she's being held, but no sign of Peters. Even her attorneys say they don't know what's next for her, whether Peters will have to stay in jail pending a lengthy legal battle, or whether the Trump administration will take more drastic action to spring her from that prison in Pueblo.
Yesterday, you sent out instructions. We got a lot of foot soldiers on Telegram, social media, so we caused a storm, if you will, in Colorado with the governor is over. What's going on with Tina Peters right now?
We had an understanding that she was going to be able to be out at or before her birthday. So I know of a couple things right now. One of them I was on the phone most of the day on, where Justice Department is absolutely immobile and lives are on the line type of thing. It's that serious, without any exaggeration. Not going anywhere. DOA. It's just not moving. Over this last month while I've been pushing it hard. And people were calling police, they were calling prisons, corrections people, the AG there in Colorado. Before we're done, you may very well see 101st Airborne show up at the Colorado prison.
Wow.
And
really?
I'm not actually kidding. We're going to assert federal authority, and they're not going to stop it, and it's going to be a court challenge. What the governor of Colorado should do is he should go ahead and release her to federal custody. The most important thing Trump will ever do in public life, political life, is what he's about to do next, and that is declare a national election emergency. You know what he can also do? He can go over there with the 101st Airborne, surround that prison, bring helicopters in on the roof and repel guys in if they don't want to open the door. And I don't care how many state police Colorado has, even their state guard, the 101st broke out at the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
And
that would be one hell of a news story, let me tell you.
Prison.
Juanito, if it goes down exactly the way you just painted that picture, this is an award-winning, Academy Award-winning movie on steroids. Seriously.
When she prays, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray, dear Lord, my soul to keep. She's not actually kidding, okay? And the stress of that ages you. Just the stress it's a health thing. It's also emotional, mental health. And I want to get her out, doll her back up, let her kind of recollect herself. She's lost a tremendous amount of weight based on where she's at. She wants to get right back at it and go after the vote stuff. And she has so much she wants to say, but it'll wait a little bit while we get her health kind of under control. And
the center we own in Cape Canaveral is not medical devices, or we have some magic tricks on it. The body is what actually works. I bought a new machine about a week ago, and brother, I feel amazing. Okay, my mental clarity is like through the roof. It reverses all kinds of things. We've had people come in there with stage 4. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where they couldn't even walk to the bathroom, and they had to have 2 people assist them to walk them 85 feet to the bathroom, etc. And literally, the doctor said, "Listen, go home, get your affairs in order. It's over. You're not going to make it a week from now." And they're still here today by the grace of God, because, they were stubborn. They listened to my advice, even though I'm not giving medical advice. I said, you're going to have to sleep in the system. We have a plasma med bed. Now we have the plasma med bed with noble gas. We have the scalar wave technology. Now we have the Brown's gas, which is hydrogen therapy, which I'm sure Tina knows a lot about, et cetera. So we got all the little tricks and plus we have access to the best naturopathic doctors in the fucking world. Okay, so if she wants to come down, she's more than welcome to. The only thing they have to do is, go through you, whatever, and we'll figure it out. That's not a problem. I mean, even if I have to get on a couple of calls with a couple of shows with the champ, and we'll raise her the money for renting her an apartment nearby, and maybe getting her a personal assistant for a couple of months, whatever it takes, we'll make it happen. The Mel Carmine Show begins in just 1 minute. Support the movement. Visit QFS1776.com for exclusive one-of-a-kind merch that makes a powerful statement. Protect your wealth. Cash is trash. Go to carminesgold.com and secure real assets, silver, gold, delivered anywhere in the U.S. Text Mel at 786-704-8817. Looking to acquire XRP? Minimum is $10,000 investment, and there is no limit, even up to $100 million worth. Again, text Mel with full details at 786-704-8817 and allow up to 24 hours for a response. And yes, text the same number to establish your religious irrevocable trust. Protect everything you built. You own nothing, but you control everything. And if by chance you're visiting Cape Canaveral or you are a local, visit stayingalive.com, alive with 2 E's, and recharge your body at the cellular level. The show with your host, Mel Carmine, starts right now. Hey guys, I got 107 on the line. We're just on a regular telephone call. And he's just, he's got so much incredible wisdom and amazing information on silver. And I do tend to agree with you. I think silver's going to go to 1,000, and you'll see $2,000 silver in the future as well. It has to go there.
I don't want to get that far out of sorts. If you see it at those kind of numbers, you know that something has happened at the Federal Reserve, and that we've begun to move over to Treasury certificates, deposit certificates. Right. And so what you're really seeing when you see silver get to those kind of numbers is you're seeing a collapse of the Federal Reserve system, this international banker money system. And that's important because it could very well do something like that because of what's going wrong.
Right.
What's going right for America, and where Trump's going, and what's going wrong with this international reserve system. Sorry, I'm just trying to so this is top secret. Nobody knows this yet. But I'm actually boxing up right this second as we speak.
Right.
A picture, top secret, Roseanne Barr, and I actually have to go through Texas. I've had this. Jennifer made this over a year ago, And actually a picture, it's from a photograph. Jennifer made an oil painting out of it. It's of a photograph of Roseanne working on her farm, all dressed up like a peasant girl, working on her farm in Hawaii. And so Jen took the picture. Roseanne's pretty proud of it. She's got her, spade, and she's got her work boots on, and she's got her farmer hat on. She's everything. She's just totally dressed out to the nines. And it was so cute that Jennifer said, I got to make a picture of this. So she literally made a oil painting, and it's absolutely stunning. Roseanne doesn't know that she knows I'm coming over to visit her, and she knows I have a gift for her. And it's real important because she's actually filming her movie right now, or TV show. It's like 6 parts. And I got to, be in on the plot and give a couple of suggestions on it. It's hysterical. When you find out what it is, I don't know how much I can tell, so I won't. But it's hysterical. So the super short version is we're taking, one of the things is that Roseanne sees what she sees going on in the neighborhood, all from her garden. It's hysterical, right? So Jen had made this picture. I supervised, of course, so I can say we. Anyway, she has this picture of Roseanne in her garden, and it probably goes with the plot of this TV show, which is like 6 parts that they're actually starting filming in a week and a half. Right. She's working on the set and everything. So Jen made this epic picture. It's all framed. It's like 3 feet by 4 feet. And so to get it on the airplane, I have to box it up, with a nice frame put on it and everything else. It's a beautiful picture. And so I have to make sure that I don't break anything now. That's right.
Interesting. So you're doing Hawaii right now?
Roseanne doesn't know it's coming. So you now know the backstory.
There you go.
Tomorrow afternoon, she'll see her picture and we'll be able to get
Well, I have a friend of mine is a very dear friend of hers, Tom Althouse, who created the movie The Matrix. He's constantly with her. He sees her, twice in a month sometimes.
Well, the one thing, I will say this. Let me just add this one thing. We're really fortunate of all the Hollywood people that are out there. There's very few that are just this, epic, full-on get it, in saving the country, getting it back on track. And, Roseanne is one of those people. And so we're pretty privileged to have such a person around us in the movement overall, and who's really put it on the line a couple of different times. Remember, she lost a lot because of what she did, kind of making fun of the, howdy-towdy people over there at the Obama administration. And, she lost her show. She lost everything. It was pretty devastating after her whole career.
I'm sure.
And even then, she stayed on it when they attacked her, even when it was costing her money to just stay, before everything became really mega. Because remember, that was during the Obama administration. She was mega before anybody else was even saying mega, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, she's definitely a patriot. What do you think of Mel Gibson? I mean, do you think Mel Gibson's got his heart straight, or do you think he's maybe there's some shenanigans there? Because he's part of Hollywood, but we don't know. And I know he's gone the other way.
Mel, we spent time together. I love Mel. He's fantastic. He's put a lot in there too, and he's had his ups and downs.
Okay.
But he's paid his dues. But what's interesting about Mel is that he think of all the movies he's made, but then you look at the resurrection that he's making right now, and what's going on with that. That's a pretty big deal. He was sharing that he had a special idea for in the resurrection, it goes beyond just the resurrection of Christ, all the way to Paul with his Damascus Road experience.
Right.
And so he has this idea of doing something that's never been done in the movies before, for how he's going to technically display that Damascus Road deal with Paul. And he's of mind that it is something that was inspired for him to even have this concept, to even talk in those terms as though it's something that he got a download from the Almighty for that scene, because it's something important within, say, the movement to, how's that, what's that going to do for people? And you see it, there's a huge push, by the way, in Hollywood. You didn't see any quote unquote Christian or divine kind of out there till just recently, post Sound of Freedom, really, in many ways.
Right.
Which, by the way, the edit that was kind of the next to final edit, or 2 edits for the end, that was Gibson's edit. That's the one that we showed when Jim and I went around the country and showed the movie. And that's my favorite edit. They edited out 14 and a half minutes, I think, from the version that I showed everywhere. And I don't know that they think it's better the way it is now, because it's a little bit shorter. But, like I went and saw Nuremberg. It's a long movie, but it needs to. The subject matter is so, critical, so important.
Right.
Where do you edit it? I'm not just shortening it up for TV doesn't really do anything for me personally.
Sure. Sure. Getting back to XRP, I agree with you, by the way, on Mel Gibson. I think it's
I just wanted people to know that the background noise is me doing critical work. Getting out here.
Can you imagine 107 actually does physical work?
Yeah. Well, actually, I actually got to visit my cars for a couple hours today.
Wow. So
I'm really feeling it, man. Wow, what a day for me, man.
Nice.
Put a couple battery chargers on so I don't lose,
okay,
$300 batteries and stuff like that.
But anyway, getting back to the XRP, as long as you got it on a hardware wallet, you're okay. If you got it on the exchange, that's where the problems can manifest. You want to definitely take it off the exchange. You don't want to leave it there.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I've got XRP. I've got some of the other crypto stuff. But the cryptos, it's tough for some people on the cryptos. They're just not, it's outside their mental experience, expertise, whatever.
Totally.
You got in and out prices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I like crypto within a certain zone.
Right.
But for a lot of our listeners, a lot of the people that are out there, man, they're sweating bullets. They can't sleep at night. If you looked at silver, and you mentioned, say, 6 months ago, and you looked at any of the cryptos, you haven't made a lot, even though, if you sold high, which nobody did on the cryptos, because everybody was expecting to go higher. That's fine, but now they're all deflated a bit. It'll be back.
Sure.
There's fundamental stuff in there that it's not the end of crypto or anything like that. But I do think that you're better off. And when you called me 6 months ago and said, I got some money I was going to put in, where should I put it? And I said silver.
Right.
Don't even think twice about it. There's a long ways to go, I think, with the silver, because it's an industrial metal.
Right.
And a lot of people make a mistake. They compare silver ratios to gold. Mm-hmm. Gold is not used in industry. So this exact moment, here's the trick. We have the tariffs, and you have to pay tariffs on silver coming into the country also, gold and silver, for most all the countries. Mm-hmm. And if we're bringing home, because of the tariffs and the way that we're doing this business, you hear all about these deals, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, mm-hmm. Japan, countries all over the world are having to invest in business in America. Bring the jobs back home that a bunch of crooked politicians send out of the country for the last 50 years.
Right.
And so when you bring those jobs home, especially in the high-tech industries, all of those new server manufacturing operations, all of the computer stuff that's coming back takes tons of silver. And when they use it, it's gone off the market. It really isn't coming back in the market. Gold gets traded around. Silver gets traded for people like us, but it gets consumed as the products go out into the market. And backfilling in that silver that's being consumed is very expensive. And I mentioned it the other day on another show I did, I think, Space Shot. I had a conference call with people last week in both the mining industry and in the industrial side, just because of other projects that I have going. The mining guys said that they aren't even going to begin thinking about buying equipment and turning on the silver mines here in the U.S. till the silver is bare ass minimum 120 an ounce.
Wow.
And probably closer to 150, because it's expensive. You have to commit. And with prices below that, it's not just the cost of production of silver, it's the cost of startup and production and then getting that money back. And they don't want to get, let's say Trump didn't win and the tariffs come off and all of a sudden, in their mind, 3 years from now, we got stuck with a huge equipment bill and all the production goes offshore again to China or something. That's not going to happen, but that was their concern. So they just don't want to get committed too early on these huge capital expenditures to turn on silver mines. They get some silver from other mining, copper and other stuff, and that hits the market. The other thing is that from an industry side, I asked the guys, at what price do you stop using silver? Well, the first answer is you don't stop using silver. You got to have it. There's nothing else replaces it, really. Everything else is less efficient, doesn't work right, isn't dependable, or is even more expensive than silver. So it's silver. So at what point do you really feel the pain with silver? Remember, you're only using tiny amounts, and yet cumulatively it's tons and tons and tons of silver. And kind of the consensus, I had several people that were pretty smart guys. And I said, silver's gonna level out here at about 70 and then surge again probably somewhere in January and continue on its way. It was my, thesis. And at what point do you think it really kind of peaks out, let's say during the Trump administration? And I was actually personally kind of shocked because, when things turn on, more of it shows up wherever it's hidden under the bed, grandma's sock drawer, whatever,
exactly.
Right? And but the consensus, and these are really smart guys, industry guys, they says, at about 280 is what we project that we have to be prepared that we may be paying for silver within the next few years. It's 280, 4 times where I'm saying it's going to peak out in the next few days and kind of level out for a month or so. And they said, yep, 280. That's what we're working with is our working price that we have to anticipate. And so what are they doing? They've gone long on silver futures, and they've been doing that now for about 6 months. And you'll notice that a lot of the really big investor types and all are doing the same thing. They've sold out on their short positions in the last 2 quarters. And so they're no longer speculating silver's going back down from these prices. And they got a little bit burned on it somewhat because it started up right when I said it was starting up, 2.5 years ago.
Right.
And that we were moving out of this churning phase into a pretty steady climb, which it has done pretty exactly what I said. Nobody's bought silver since I recommended buying silver has lost a penny. Anybody that's bought the coins that Jen and I have hasn't lost a penny. So now you look at where they're at, they're all buying long, they're buying not 2 years or 3 years from now. They're buying, 6, 8 months out, but they're buying anticipating higher prices. And most of them are doing margins where they're buying, say right now, they're buying 70 and they're selling 80 or 90. So they only make the profit in the middle, and the 80 or 90 silver, calls or futures are, they're buying those as a hedge. They're selling, they're selling the silver at one price and they're buying at the other. So that if the market, goes past their strike points, for example, let's say right now, let me help people understand it. Back when Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae were red hot years ago, I made money while they were going up and while they were going down. So I was selling Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and I don't remember what the numbers were, but let's just say generically $100. So when it's like at $90 and everybody's hot and the market's red hot, I would sell $100 calls, and I'd make money on selling those calls. I might make, I don't know, $5-6 selling those calls. Then if the market really went up and I didn't want to be overexposed, I'd be selling at 100, and maybe it was at 90. I'd buy 105, let's say, and they're really, really cheap because you're paying for time. Whenever you do a put or a call, you're paying for time. You're not actually buying the stock or the metal or whatever. You're saying, I'm going to sell you this for this price right now, and or buy it at this price right now and then sell it or buy it later on. And you're getting whatever the gap is. So if I sold Freddie Mac at $100 and it's 90 right now, and say I got $5 because the market's red hot, it's volatility, how volatile the market is. And so you're saying, I will promise to give you Freddie Mac in 3 months at $100. And I'm selling you the right to buy that from me in 3 months at $100. So people would come in and buy that future, and they think that silver or that Freddie Mac was going to maybe 105, 110. So they want to get it at 100 and lock it in so they don't get hurt. When most of the time, if I have 3 months, it's not going to hit what we call a strike price. And so I make that $5. If it doesn't hit 100, if it hits $99.9 on the stock, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm done. If it hits 101, okay, when they get there, I got to buy the stock, and it's going to cost me $1 more than what I sold it for. I have $5 to work with. That Freddie Mac could go to 105 before it costs me any money out of my pocket. Why? Because I made $5 when I sold the option.
Right.
So I have a buffer all the way up, even though I sold it at 100, I have a buffer all the way up to 105, let's say. Now, the far side of that is, let's say it goes just crazy, like silver's been doing, by the way, and it goes to 110 or 115. Now, and see, I'm selling lots of shares. I'll sell them in a block, 1,000 shares. So I'm making $5 on 1,000 shares. I'm making $5,000 on a deal. But my risk, my exposure is the whole amount. So now to bracket, so I don't lose more than I can afford to lose, I would buy Freddie Mac at, say, 110 or 115, depending on how gutsy I am. And or if it gets close with less time, I would come in and buy some insurance. Sometimes I'd go naked where I wasn't, buying on the far side at all, because I just didn't think it was going to get there. If it did, I just buy some as it got closer, where there's less time, because you're paying for time. If I buy it 3 months out or 6 months out, and we're down to a month and it's getting close, I'm going to pay a lot less money for that. And the people that are buying what I'm selling, they have to pay a lot more when there's more time. So I'm making good money, and I made tremendous amounts of money doing puts and calls back with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. I probably made 2 or 3 times at a bare minimum what they went up. And I think, as I recall, I think it went up to the high 180s, 190s from down there at 60 or 70. And I was doing puts and calls all the way up. Now I had, because I'm so busy, even then I had an advisor that I didn't mind that he made a little piece of what I was doing. And he was very good at it. You get a lot of these guys and they just don't know what the hell they're doing, and they can cost you a lot of money. But I had somebody that was actually pretty good. And so I trusted his skill sets. And if it got outside a certain zone, we were on the phone and we'd work through it. I'm out of the country, I'm somewhere else. And but I get a few minutes, I call, where we at, anything I need to know. And I had lots of positions and a few minutes of review, and he knew what I wanted, and he knew how I thought and where I was risk averse. I made a tremendous amount of money because I knew Freddie Mac was going up. I knew Fannie Mae was going up. When it turned and it went the other direction, if I had bought Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac back when they were like 60, 70 bucks and rode it all the way up and sold out at 185 and got the exact peak of the market, which is almost impossible. Let's say I made 100 bucks on the stock and paid the taxes on that and all that. I easily made probably, I think even maybe 5 times that amount of money with the puts and the calls, all the way up and all the way back down. And so I was just staying ahead of where it was at. I was selling to people that needed an insurance policy on the far side. We do the same thing with jet fuel. A particular airline I was dealing with was in a situation where they were, going to get hit hard if fuel went up. I said, well, you need to get in there. You need to hedge those bets. Same thing I told folks over there at Southwest that were doing it at the time.
Are you telling me that 107 used to sell jet fuel, JP54 or JP57?
No. I do crew chief on the fastest jet car on the planet, but I don't sell jet fuel.
Okay.
But I was advising them on this one thing. The head of their legal department on something. And I said, you better get in there and hedge fuel. I could not believe it. This is a major U.S. airline. Had no clue how to do it. I said, it's simple. They're doing it over there at Southwest. You can't figure this out? And so I mapped out, on a napkin, over a couple of minutes what they needed to do. And I told them the exact trades and who to do it with. And so they did the deal. And they actually hedged out. At that time, I said, you probably got to go as far as you possibly can. If you could do 5 years, I'd do it. United did it by actually doing deals with the Saudis.
Right.
And they actually bought all of the tanker time, the refinery time, everything 5 years out. But this was a smaller airline, and that just wasn't, that was outside their skill sets or knowledge. So they did it 3 years out. And the particular person I was dealing with was actually the majority shareholder for this major airline, even though he was also the head of the legal department.
Wow.
Because he's an attorney, he's head of their legal department. Well, he's also the biggest shareholder. He's protecting himself, right? And so anyway, he did that, and he came back to me about a year and a half later and said, we'd have been gobbled up by this other airline. They had a strike price, which I had warned them on. And there was a reason why I knew was going on there. So anyway, he said, yeah, we would have lost the airline. It would have been gobbled into another airline, one of the other big players. And it didn't happen because they had hedged their bets on the jet fuel, and it did what I said it was going to do. Mm. And the other airline, their stock was in the 30s. Right. At the time that all this transpired. And this other airline had a strike price for them at like 37. They got all the way up to like 36 and change and never quite hit that number. And the reason was because they were able to defend themselves on a bunch of fronts, including their fuel costs. Right. Where if they'd had to pay the higher fuel costs, then they'd have been in trouble. They'd have gone negative on their earnings, and all of a sudden shareholders would be screaming bloody murder. Next thing you know, somebody's in there grabbing them. Right. So they were able to protect themselves. All of that conversation is relevant to the people here. Look, you're about to see something happen with the value of the dollars. The Federal Reserve's lowering interest rates, which means more people are going to show up, print me dollars, print me dollars, print me dollars, including the biggest monster of them all, the U.S. government. Right. And they're going to want to, they create treasury bonds to fund, military programs and roads and bridges and all sorts of bullshit. And then, which if they're doing it for the right price, it's not bullshit, but the way they do it with the government, they'll pay 20 times what it's worth to do the same project. So they'll issue those treasury bonds, and somebody has to buy them. Well, who buys them? Banks, and if there's nobody else that wants to buy them, insurance companies, stuff like that, the Federal Reserve. And if it does get to the banks, what do the banks do? Well, they go to the Treasury window and they get a loan based on their assets. And either way, no matter what happens, you're printing cash. Right. So with the cost of money going down, as the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, more money is demanded and printed, which means that all the existing money goes down in value because it's supply and demand. There's more cash out there. People want more for what they got because the cash is worth less. Yeah. That makes sense. Into a moment. And by the way, when the stock market goes up, which is going to continue to go up because of this, it's because there's more cash available to buy in the stock market. And the stock market itself represents real things for the most part, real buildings, real airplanes, real vehicles for delivery trucks and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then you just have to look at the market. Is it office buildings they own? Well, that's the last stock I'm going to invest in because of COVID. You have a lot of commercial space that's open. Right. Is it housing? Well, Trump wants more housing available, but most of the houses that are out there are just flat ass too expensive. They're overpriced. Mm. And so they're going to come down a bit. I'd be, except for certain places, afraid of even regular real estate. And so while the market's readjusting, this is a good time to be in cash. Warren Buffett says he's in the highest all cash position ever in all the years that Berkshire Hathaway has been around. Why? Because he doesn't see anything that he thinks is a good buy. So he wants to be ready to instantly go in and pick up some great buys when he thinks there's something approaching a crash, some kind of a market readjustment. But even now, he just doesn't see things that make sense. I was talking with some other people here about 3 weeks ago about oil and oil pricing and like that. And because Trump has got us headed back towards being a net exporter, we don't need that Venezuelan oil. It'll come on the market, but while it's off the market, it's better. It's holding prices up. When Venezuela gets their act together and starts shipping oil regularly, and it's not to China, it's to the rest of the market, or China has to pay market prices even, oil's going to come down. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see oil all the way down into the mid-30s. And it's up there at 57 now. It's been pretty solid up in the 60s. And
so you're talking about gasoline coming down to like $2 a gallon?
Oil, crude oil.
Yeah, but
does not that gasoline. The gasoline is a refined product.
Correct.
And so refinery fuel prices is not as tied to oil prices as you would think. There's a lot of labor, a lot of other things that go into it, and then just availability. How many new refineries has America built in the last 50 years? 0.
Right.
Okay. So, but the reason I mentioned that is energy prices and things like that. Where do you want to put the money?
Yeah.
Gosh, it's just tough.
How do you think this Venezuela thing is going to affect the market, silver, gold, cryptos, stock market, et cetera?
I don't know that it affects it directly, other than if oil was somehow to surge on the market. It's not because of the way it's going to happen, most likely. But where I was going with all this, there's a lot of directions. There's a lot of wonky stuff that even the experts don't know with precision. And so for most of the people that we're talking to, the way you sleep at night is you're not buying air. Would most people be sophisticated enough or have just the right person to advise them to go ahead and buy stocks, crypto, anything else? Right this second, I don't think so. I don't see anything that's a great deal out there where I think there's massive to be had. And if they do, they're up at night, gosh, I hope I did this right. I hope this doesn't change too much. I hope it's still going to work right. You know what? At this exact moment, if you buy silver, then I think you sleep at night while this whole thing goes through all of its wild gyrations. Come back in late 2026, early 27 at the latest, and reevaluate. We have so much drama ahead this year. It's not just Venezuela or Ukraine or the Mideast. There's all sorts of active efforts right this second to attack America and do things, and other places around the world. I think you just have and hold silver for the moment. Take physical possession of it, by the way. Don't leave it in somebody's safe.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's not yours if it's not yours. And when you do that, you probably sleep at night, and you don't have to worry about it so much, because silver is pretty solid. At the end of the day, you have a tangible that, as the world turns on more and more, it's got industrial demand. And if America does what we expect it to do, and we need way more silver, we start moving all these different types of manufacturing back to the U.S., that demand for silver is right here at home in the U.S. And any silver coming in from outside the country has a tariff attached to it.
Right.
So it costs way more. Everybody has to pay more for silver coming from offshore. So domestic silver is going to go up pretty radically. And even though you're holding it as a numismatic, either as a collector coin or as a treasury currency, according to the constitutional money, it's going to go up. It's going to stay steady. It's not going down in its purchasing value. And I think the purchasing value of the silver is going to go up radically. It's already shown that steadily. Gold, for all of it's gone up, it's at 4,200 an ounce.
Right.
You see the percentage increases in value.
Sure.
It goes up 0.5%, and silver goes up 2 and 3.
Should I take my gold and buy silver with it? I got a few gold tokens. Should I swap it out?
I think it's a much better investment. And if you compare where gold was at, you mentioned 6 months ago. Yeah. You would be much better off with the silver right now than you would with the gold, many times over. And I don't think that trend. There's a saying with the Fed: don't fight the trend.
Mm-hmm. The trend is your friend. The trend is your friend.
The trend be your friend. Well, the trend with silver is still outpacing everything else. And at the end of the day, stock market, real estate, the only thing that has the potential for a better return on your investment, if you're an older person, is your kids and your grandkids. But I can tell you, you won't sleep at night. You can invest in all the college and everything else you want. You don't know if they're going to make it or not.
Right.
But in reality, let me just say it correctly. You're not going to want to hold gold or silver long term, even when the gains are looking very good. Somewhere out here in about a year, you're going to want to come back in and invest in businesses that have started to turn back on in America, including mining. Okay. It's a little bit early right now, but when you do come back in, you'll come in with what also is going to be the new money. You know, we're going back to constitutional money, and it'll happen during this administration with the switch back over to Treasury. And so it's going to have real value. Well, if you get there first, you're already where everything's going to go.
Right.
And the prices are going to be higher and people are going to want it. Even if it didn't go radically higher, you have something tangible that's different than the promises of politicians, the promises of market people or corporate heads and like that. I think you're way ahead of the game for the moment. There with the silver. And then, you know, as it starts to flatten out, you want to get into the business. America is going to be unbelievable for business investment, and including the markets and things like that, I think, as we come out of 2026. And you're going to want to buy the future because you're going to get fantastic returns.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you, by any chance, own any Liberty World Finance token from Donald Trump? Did you buy any of that?
No, the stuff is at a premium for what it is.
Right now, it's at 14 cents. You should get some, Juan.
Well, I when you get all the way into it, I'm sure that people are going to make some money on it. There's other places that I think for the moment are probably a stronger, safer buy for the moment. And so, you know, I'll just give you a tiny little example. A lot of that's kind of a market makers make that. So there was another situation, not that different. And a few of my friends wanted me to join in, and I didn't. And the buy-in was a 6-figure buy-in. And they just were going to make cut a fat hog. It went up pretty dramatically, most of it just due to hype. Everybody talking it up with their friends. And of course, they wanted me in there because, you know, I'm going to talk it up to everybody and get everybody to, you know, all of your listeners and everything else, you know, let's go buy it. It's going to be fantastic. And I just asked, it's not my zone. That's not what I do. And,
the World Liberty Finance and the Trump token are two different things. The Trump token is...
Well, let me just finish. So they got it up quite a ways. And then one of the players, almost in a Ponzi-esque fashion, says, well, I'm about, I got some other stuff I got to do. And he cashed in his position. The other guys had to backfill it or it would have lost quite a bit of value. And they did not want to get clips. So now they had to double down or lose, you know, have this thing kind of vaporize on them. Some of these things are exactly that. And I would rather stay with a true, tangible, and with the numbers that I know. There's another group out of Texas that's doing something, and I looked at it a year ago. I looked at it 2 years ago. I looked at it a year ago. I looked at it just a few days ago again on the numbers, and I told them at the time, I said, these numbers, there's just too much of a premium in it to be in here. I don't see that it makes sense. And so I just said no. And the reality is that as you look at it and get deeper into it, what we're going to do over at Treasury, because I know the guys, I mean, I trained some of them that set up where we're going on the minted coin and the Treasury certificates. You'll be really safe there. It's a little premature, and a lot of these people are trying to go to a bit of air attached to the phenomena. You know, Rothschild had a saying. He says, I don't care about the first 20% of profit or the last 20%. I'll take the 60 in the middle. He wanted that safe ground after it's already established a trend and it's going, and he buy in. And yeah, he missed out on the first 20%. And then when it's reached a certain point, he's not waiting for the last dollar. He's cashing out before it, trying to guess the peak. Okay. Some of these are like that, and I'm not comfortable. I looked at quite a few, even with relatively important names attached to them. When you crunch the numbers, it was not something that I personally would recommend. And unless I really feel solid on something.
And that's exactly what happened with Bitcoin. They came in, the big fat cats moved in at about $1,000 to like $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I bought my first Bitcoin. I think it was 32 cents.
Nice. I hope you bought a lot.
Well, what happened was you have early Bitcoin and late Bitcoin, but in that particular bit of Bitcoin, and I think I had maybe $200 or $300 worth.
At 32 cents?
I had it on a computer, and the battery was an Apple computer, and the battery in the computer literally melted. And at the time, to go in there and pull out that coin and everything else, I still got the computer. I never threw it away because of that.
Oh, you might want to give that to my wife, Amber. You might want to give it to my wife, Amber. I bet you she'll pull that Bitcoin out.
Yeah, well, it was pretty devastating at the time. And a couple of times when it was up there, I think when it was at 20 or 30,000, I had somebody look at it and see if we could pull it out. And it was not, they were, sketchy at that. And then Bitcoin, you have early and late Bitcoin, and there's all sorts of drama with that people aren't aware of. By the way, there's a bounty out. It's a big bounty for anybody that can crack the source code on the Bitcoin too, and that's out there. People think it's more secure than it truly is. So DARPA did it. It's amazing. Blah blah blah. But I think a tangible for this exact moment, you're better off. And so
until they have to do away with the SWIFT system, or the SWIFT system is going to have no choice but to partner. And there's rumors of that already. I don't know how true they are, to partner up with Ripple XRP.
We're going to the Treasury and we're leaving the international reserve system, so they can kiss my ass. We're gonna kick them down the road. So far, the first bounce is going to be off planet.
Do you see? For example, the SWIFT system surviving this whole thing, or not?
Not as we know it. It'll evolve, and it's because of the fight between the United States Treasury and everybody else. BRICS isn't going to kick our ass. We're kicking their ass. That's part of the reason why we did the deal with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar, was because that caused them to stop where they were going to do certain trading things with oil using the BRICS system.
Right.
And they'll participate, but they won't fund or fully capitulate over there because of the arms deals that we did with them. So that's one of the things. Trump did something so incredibly genius there. And almost nobody realized it. When they're looking at the Mideast stuff and the Israel and everything else, they have no concept. Trump did something so stunning in the way that he put those deals together, that really not just protect America, but protect the world, so that we're not under somebody else's thumb. It's something amazing. So again, even a lot of the criticism on Trump for this last short of a year, nothing's getting done, not enough's happening, we're going, it's blah, blah, blah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
We've laid the foundation in critical areas. Some of it is, it's like in the bullfight. The bull gets tired, and the bullfighter's tired too, but he's taunting and baiting the bull to charge him again. You use its last ounces of energy, and that's what causes it to drop its head. The bull is not vulnerable when its head is up, because the shoulder blades close, and you can't kill the bull through the chest, all the bones and muscle and all that. You just can't do it. So it has to be exhausted. A lot of what Trump's doing is exhausting the deep state bull. And as it gets more and more exhausted, we're really in that most dangerous period this next year, as all these systems are fighting back, but they're also exhausted, the Federal Reserve, the International Reserve System like that. And when they're head down, they're turning their head and the horns become the most dangerous. Well, that's a problem because you got to get close enough to the bull to drive that sword down between the shoulder blades. And I know it's gross, but hey, you know what? If you don't think that everything that's going on in government, the wars and everything else is gross, you don't understand it. It's gross, dirty, messy business. We're in this fight.
Sure.
It's a war. Okay.
Sure.
It's the way it is. You can be in denial. I don't like the imagery. Okay.
Well, you said things are going to get really, really hot. And when do you expect things to get hot?
We're not even into the most intense moments. We haven't even had our near-death experience yet. Please.
Really?
Everybody take a breath. And that's why I'm saying, rather than, sweating every moment of these next things, just get some silver, tangible, hold it. Don't tell anybody where it's at. Don't tell the kids or anybody else. Let the wife know, if she still loves you. And, or put it with your attorney, with your papers with your attorney or something. They go dig it up, after you're gone. But the long and short of it is get some silver coin. If you're really, truly just trying to straight invest, don't get bars. It's a pain in the ass, and everybody wants to re-assay them or melt them down or whatever. It's a racket.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. minted coin, Canadian maple leaves work also, and they're actually a little bit purer. Ounce for ounce, they're worth a little bit more. But U.S. coin is legal tender here in the U.S.
Right.
And
in other words, you're saying get something that resembles money, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you get U.S. minted pre-64 silver coin, remember a silver dollar or half dollar like that, that's not pure silver. It's with some other metals to allow it to be durable.
Sure.
So it trades, you'll see them, and they trade down, near the spot price of silver, but it's not a full ounce. The stuff that I'm having made that Jen and I have, that's all 1 troy ounce, 9999 silver. And then it's worked because it's polished before it's actually minted, so it's a proof quality.
And you're gonna sell it. You're gonna sell that on JenniferMack.com. The JenniferMack.com.
Yeah, we've got that over at JenniferMack.com, and then if they're buying more quantity, I am able to give a little bit better of a discount.
Right.
On
see what a nice guy I am. I'm actually sending you business, and I'm in the gold and silver business too.
Well, and that's over at allpatriots.gumroad.com on the multiple stuff. But let me just say this. You do a lot of important stuff. You have a fan base. They're your folks. They're wonderful folks. You kind of help and you spend. There's a principle, like where I'm at right now. It's a kind of a small town. If I need upholstery or if I need, maintenance work or something like that, I spend, close to home. Right. Because those are the guys that if I had something go, they'd buy from me. I have a kind of a larger building project I want to do at some point. And when I do that, I may want some of those people to come and do business with us.
Right.
So I buy and sell where I'm at, and I don't do it across the world as much,
sure,
where I can. And I would just say that if there's hosts like you that are doing important work and you're competitive, spend it with the people that are giving you the information you actually
Absolutely.
need.
Well, we can still get gold and silver. I got to send you this one video, Juan. It's about 30 minutes long. It's the most compelling video I've seen on silver yet. It was sent to me by my good friend. I call him Jeff Bezos. That's what he looks like. And the bottom line is it is worth watching. It's 30 minutes long.
Someone who's follically challenged?
Yeah.
But, it looks like he went to space and on reentry, something
happened.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But I could tell you that.
What that's called, my chief of staff, Matt Beck, is also in this same condition. But he was an A6 pilot. And so he'd have been perfect in World War I with the open cockpits.
Right.
High speed, low drag.
But nevertheless, I could tell you that in the video it talks about how silver is going to become unobtainium, which means you're not going to be able to get it here shortly. There's already signs on websites saying you can pre-order, but you'll be waiting months to get it, etc. Some big name sites without giving them any Esquire. I can tell you, our website could still get some if they want some, but the reality is it's getting scarce. And he's talking about how you're going to be able to sell your silver on the black market for $500-600 an ounce here shortly because there's not going to be any available.
Well, I think that's probably a bit high, but in principle, I agree 100%. And I don't want to overhype people too prematurely. Let me say it this way. Some of what's coming is going to be very difficult for the country. And we're going to have some ups and downs on the business because of this near-death experience stuff coming. So the industrial side, while we're going to need it, and it is I think it's going to be added as a listed material like titanium and things like that, where there's a national security risk with it. Some of that demand that's really there from an industrial side, it's going to be there. But the other thing is this, the market, the consumers themselves. I was looking at auction prices on cars and heavy equipment, business equipment. And I was talking with one of the auctioneers yesterday on this. And from last year to this year, the prices overall on all sorts of goods, farm equipment, construction equipment, etc., is down, markedly. It's not the end of the world or anything like that, but like he said, yeah, from last year to this year, it's a solid 15%, maybe even 20%. And wow. At auction prices. And it's not because there's more stuff at the auction. He said, no, the amount of material that we have is pretty stable right now. Mm-hmm. So it's not down because everybody's getting rid of everything.
Right.
It's just a softer market this second. Yeah. I think that stays because of all of the start and stop that's going to happen in the business sector this year because of all sorts of stuff, even with the tariffs causing businesses to want to start up again. There's a lag time. Yeah. Well, people decide how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it, whatever. I think it's later in the year of next year.
What do you think of John Deere? What do you think of John Deere wanting to sell pickup trucks at $15,000? No frills pickup truck, brand new, $15,000 for a pickup truck. What do you think that's going to do to the market?
Again, I mean, if they can pull it off, I think that they're saying it's going to be $15,000. By the time it actually hits the market, it's going to be $22,000 to $25,000, and it won't be as bare bones as they've even done because that's not what Americans want. They, they want cheaper equipment than what John Deere's been selling them.
Right.
But it's like when Volkswagen first came into the country. I had a 57 Volkswagen split window. That was the cars I bought in the early years. Nobody wanted a Volkswagen. Really? This one had a Porsche engine.
Yeah.
Had a Porsche 6-cylinder in my VW, and it was a Porsche 5-speed transmission. Oh my gosh, it was a rocket ship. it looked so innocent.
Right.
You had to look twice to realize there was a roll bar behind the split window. But anyway, it was a wild car.
Juanito, not to get off subject, but
I just want to finish this one thought. Let me finish this one thought. So in that era of the late 50s, early 60s, Rambler had the Rambler American. They were, pushing hard that the price was cheap. You had the Metropolitan, the mini little freaking car that's out there. A lot of people bought them. They got great gas mileage. People were pushing these economical, low price, but America's heart was in, dual 4 barrels and, a little bit of smoke came out the exhaust and the rest was raw fuel, right?
Right.
It didn't matter. You could have the right idea, but what they want to do is they want to build a truck that farmers in South America can afford to buy, that are barely getting by, that is dependable, straightforward, and they don't care with the farm employees if it has power windows or not, right? They don't care if it has windows. That's not as much as we're spendthrift here in America. We're used to certain things, and we don't want the very cheapest thing out there.
Right.
They might want to push it on us, but that's not what we want.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to have to compromise and have a little bit more there than what they're saying. But, the problem, for example, with John Deere, and I had somebody that was in there, a very high place, very, very high place within the whole corporate operation, very high. Right. And even 2 and 3 decades ago, we were talking about the fact that, they were creating, or they were servicing a market where John Deere was so dependable. You could get parts for John Deere any year. John Deere. I had I think it was a 64 or 5 John Deere. It came with the farm when I bought one of my farms, and it had a couple things that were wrong with it. And I was kind of like, gosh, am I going to be able to find these parts? I got on the John Deere dealer thinking, okay, it's like classic cars. I'm going to struggle to get these parts. There's a reason why somebody didn't fix it. And he says, yeah, okay, well, it's going to be this much, which was ridiculously a lot of money. I can have it here by tomorrow. And so their parts they're just a maintenance hogs. In fact, we had one that I was going to have serviced here with a transmission issue, $150,000 tractor.
Wow.
And but brand new, to get the equivalent today, this is about a 20-year-old tractor. To get the same thing today equivalent, crap, it's $500,000.
Sure. So,
when you get all the right wheel tire setups, and this was kind of an unusual one for different things. So I was going to go ahead and buy it from the farm. And I think we were at $20,000 because it had this huge transmission issue. And the transmission, if you fix it, it's $100,000. But then you got a tractor that's worth, $150,000.
Wow.
It had been fixed once and failed, and all that money was out the window. And they're gonna have to go back in there and do the whole thing again. It was just like, fuck, give me strength. So what ended up happening, somebody else went ahead and bought it because I just didn't have time to fuss doing what I wanted to do, because I was going to do something to fix it a different way. And it would have cost a lot less, but I just didn't have the time. And so we sold it to somebody else. They bought it and immediately shipped it to Mexico. And in Mexico, they can get the tractor fixed with a guarantee using original John Deere parts, and people that are certified John Deere mechanics. They could fix it down there. And I think the repair cost was like $35,000 as opposed to $100,000 here. And of course, what's the other reason they wanted $100,000 here to fix it? Because in reality, they don't want to fix it. They want to sell you a brand new John Deere.
Of course.
So they're hoping that you work out the tax stuff and everything else and decide I want new instead of 20-year-old. that might have something else break and go buy the new one. Well, who are you competing with if you're farming? You're competing with huge corporations that are worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And they don't keep this stuff that long. They run it for 5 years and send it down the road and buy new and get all the write-offs and service, and they get a purchase price that nobody else gets. John Deere, has the regular farmer price. If you're only farmer and you're only worth 10 or 20 million, and you go in there, you pay the full price. And it might be your brother-in-law and friend and all that, and they give you 3% discount, friends and relatives discount or something. You're still paying an outrageous price. If you're one of the big ones, they're not paying retail. They're getting a break and a half, and they're getting all sorts of extra guarantees and service and everything, because John Deere doesn't actually want to deal with even their own dealers, other than they're servicing this big stuff. And if something breaks, it's rare. In that first little bit, by the time it's starting to break, they're just trading it out. They're selling it for scrap iron. And they don't want those used tractors out there anyway. They want to buy new.
Now, I definitely value your opinion. Back, months and months and months ago, as I was driving, I said, I got a bunch of cash. I'm about to go buy a nice chunk of silver. And I told you the amount at the time. He said, genius. So I passed the Genius Act. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you advice, even though I'm a little younger than you, but not by much.
Okay, hold on. I got to eat a piece of shrimp. I haven't eaten today. So
go ahead. Eat the shrimp while you listen to me. I'm one of the biggest sub dealers in the world, if not the biggest sub dealer in the world when it comes to selling XRP. Okay. Not.
I thought saying Russian subs or North
I'm not
Korean.
saying it. I'm not saying it as braggadocious, but I am. Okay, and we'll talk privately, and I'll tell you why I know that. But anyway, needless to say, buy some XRP, because once they turn on the switch, you know who the guy that owns Binance is? Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what he said? This is going to be a super cycle bull market. A super cycle bull market, meaning it's going to go for at least a year and a half, 2 years, possibly even 3 years. It's huge. Okay. So take my advice, buy some more XRP, thank me later. But anyway, needless to say, there's still a lot of people out there, Juanito, and I haven't asked you this question in a long time. There's still a shitload of people out there that believe that you are JFK Jr. A lot of people. Okay. And I mean, do you believe that this guy's still alive if it's not you?
There's a reason why things evolved the way they did.
Okay.
And I never tried to push anything like that or anything, but I think I'll leave that for
another show.
Later, other than to say that, why did Trump, when he was getting the mock-ups for the paint schemes for Air Force One, choose the colors that he used. He had the model there in the Oval Office first term, and then at Mar-a-Lago, as you came in while he was 26, but wasn't in the Oval Office, and so let's let that one ride for the time being.
Okay, you want to answer that question?
We will in time.
Are you hinting at the fact that he might still be alive?
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of fun while we wait to find out.
Okay. So what's going to be what's going to get real hot in 2026 that we should be aware of? Do you have any forecasts as to what should we buy a lot of food? Should we have our generators? Should we have 100 gallons of diesel fuel? Should we have a lot of ravioli on stock, etc.?
Where you live in the country and how you live kind of affects some of the decisions you might have to make, and some of the more populous areas have got maybe more drama ahead, but also some of the less populous, because where are people going that aren't supposed to be here and trying to disappear into it? It's all over the map, and it's a very personal thing. On the whole, generically, we're going to see a lot of drama.
Okay.
Some of it's warlike, some of it's people that are sent here to disrupt us. Our near-death experience as a country is yet ahead of us. And so we have a bright future. It's going to be amazing. There's 7 years of plenty ahead for us as we get our situation resolved and then go help our brothers and sisters around the world, these other 71 countries that have had their elections stolen from them for quite some time and have false leadership there running them. We got a bright moment ahead while these bad guys are going to have to regroup. And that you just can't get away from that. So you can't over anticipate the big things to come coming sooner than they come. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that are going to happen. Best of times, worst of times type of a thing. And, one of the places that you see it is the country was going through this change in the farming and the windstorms that destroyed much of the growing areas in the Midwest until they put in the trees to block it and lost all this topsoil. Huge swath of the country had to pick up everything and move to other parts of the country. And they weren't necessarily wanted there either because of the scarcity. At the same time, I look at it from a car's standpoint. The evolution in technology that happened from 32 to 42 when they stopped building consumer cars because we were in the war is pretty dramatic. It's pretty amazing. And so in some sectors, it was just horrible. Wipe out. Family farms have been in the family 100 years, completely wiped them out, didn't have anything to hand down to the children. Not an exaggeration to say that some people were literally boiling their shoes for the shoe leather, right? To just get a little bit of nutrient out of the leather in the sides of their shoes. It wasn't that bad everywhere, but it was that bad in some places. And California did pretty doggone well during the Depression. New York actually did fair after the initial hard shocks. It kind of came back in areas around it. A lot of places like Florida at the time were hurt pretty bad. Land prices went to the ground. I mean, shocking how far down they went. And so it's going to be all over the map, depending on where you're at. A lot of it has to do with where do you live and what do you do for a living, and what your infrastructure looks like. We're going to have a near-death experience as a country, but it's actually a relatively short-lived thing because it has to do with a standoff militarily and some technology that we have embedded in the country that is very dangerous and we have to go past it to another way of doing things. So there's kind of a handoff and stabilization has to happen. So with all that in mind, there's two ways you have to approach it. First of all, not second. First of all, prayer, because every person's situation is so different that you need guidance from outside yourself. And it probably isn't best if it comes from your brother or sister or brother-in-law or the neighbor or whatever, because even their situation, even if they're close to you, isn't exactly your situation. You can take it under advisement. And what are your responsibilities? Are you taking care of kids or grandkids? Do you have a child that's not going to be able to take care of themselves for some health or mental reason? What do you have responsibility for that you need to safeguard? And then the other side, the second thing is being able to take a little bit of input from other people, what they're doing, some advice, some ideas, and then try to apply it as best fits your situation. Everybody's a little different. Some people, they might be setting some stuff aside and it's not for them. It's for, people they don't even know yet, but they got it and they can maybe help everybody through at some critical moment. Other people need to maintain. A farmer still has to have his equipment. He still has to have enough money to buy seed money when the market comes back or the rainstorms are over or whatever the crisis is. If he gives it away because everybody needs something and has too soft of a heart, he doesn't have the wherewithal to plant when the season comes back. And so you have to have a bit of self-preservation dialed in there. I want to help everybody, but I gotta, it's like in the airplane, something happens, the oxygen masks come down, get yours on first, and then help the people around you. Because if you're not conscious, you're not helping anybody, and you're not helping yourself either. So you got to be viable. We're coming into a desperate moment that could be pretty wild, and in different places, different groups, different families' responsibilities. It varies enough that, have the basics, don't get a bunch of unnecessary debt. Put a little bit aside. You don't need enough for Armageddon. This isn't the end of the world. You might need a few months where things are spotty in some places, for a couple of weeks at the very least. And if you have a little extra, it's not hurting you. Others won't have anything. And you can be magnanimous, make some friends, help a couple people out, and thank God that you had enough to do just that, and at some critical moment, and then plan for the future. We're going to have an amazing period as we near the end of this administration. The preparations to have a very bountiful, solid future America is there, not just for us though, but so we have wherewithal, depth to go help the rest of the world and to, pull it out of harm's way.
Right.
And, and so again, you probably better store something up, and then you want to not let a bunch of, monsters, assholes, creeps, clip you with their paper money and biggest promise and all that. Even if you make a bunch of money in the stock market, you go to cash out, what are they paying you in? Federal Reserve notes?
Exactly.
They're down in value. You didn't make any money.
Right.
And you have risk. I think right now, for the moment, lower risk. Silver's pretty solid, and don't plan on keeping it forever.
Well, getting back to the JFK Jr. situation, when you think the timing is right, I would love to have the ability to be able to interview on it whenever you think, whether it's in the first quarter or the second half of 2026. I think it's important at some point that you let the cat out of the bag of what you know.
It'll be a while. It'll be a while.
Okay. Let's skip to Tina Peters. Yesterday, you sent out instructions. We got a lot of foot soldiers on Telegram, etc., and our channels as well on social media. So we caused a storm, if you will, in Colorado with the governor. As a matter of fact, I sent you a copy of the audio that I left him, which is 1 minute and 7 seconds long. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he knows we're not pulling any punches, and he knows there's going to be hell to pay when this war is over. What's going on with Tina Peters right now?
Okay, let me. This hasn't been said anywhere publicly so far. I don't think anybody's actually fully grasped this yet. Normally, a pardon and all of the issues around that goes through the Justice Department. In fact, earlier today, President Trump, sent a memo over to Pam Bondi. What the hell's going on over there? A lot of good talk, great talk about going after this and doing that and indicting so-and-so. At the end of the day, nothing's happening. What the hell's the problem? And you have to understand with Bondi, at the time that she came in as the head of the Justice Department, when Trump announced her, he had to have somebody that could get past the Senate, because you have to be approved by the Senate to take those offices. And so you can't, well, why didn't you put Sidney Powell in there? Well, because he couldn't have got her past the Senate. So you can do appointments, but it doesn't mean you can get them into office. And you can just be frustrated forever, or you can get the ball rolling. So I always said from day one that I felt that was a temporary appointment. And there's a couple other ones that are temporary also. And as things turn, we got the ball rolling, and we'll switch to other things. So Pam, I think, is actually on thin ground. She could pull herself back from the edge, but there's some issues there. And she's a Bush person. Jeb Bush and family are friends and all that. And they have zero love loss to Trump. Mm-hmm. And in reality, behind the scenes is full on, all out Cold War, if you will.
Right.
So, and even that could change at some point. Remember the envelopes. But the deal is that with Tina's case, there was direct blocking. We had agreements. We had stuff in place. At the last second, dead in the water. We had an understanding that she was going to be able to be out at or before her birthday. And that got nixed, and it was going to be a week later, and then it was a couple weeks. Then, well, we had this habeas corpus hearing, and it's going to get worked out there, and et cetera. And here Tina's still sad. That's why I went, and just went all in to get this done. And so here's what's interesting that happened. If you look at the pardon that President Trump issued, no one at Justice Department had anything to do with the issuance of that pardon. It was all done from within the White House and with counsel around the White House. So the normal persons that would have fact-checked, written, done everything for the pardon and sent it over to the White House had zero to do with it. They didn't even know it was coming out. They had no clue when it came out that Trump was going to do it when he did the way he did. That's shocking because Trump didn't rely on them. And we had word, on some things that were going on probably 3-4 months ago, where the word came back, don't look for resolution or assistance from Justice Department. It'll come from elsewhere. Serious legal things. And at the time, it was like, really? I mean, that's the only place that it makes sense that you would go to get these types of assistance. I know of a couple things right now. One of them I was on the phone most of the day on, where Justice Department is absolutely immobile and lives are on the line type of thing. It's that serious without any exaggeration. Not going anywhere. DOA. It's just not moving. So things are happening in other places. So does that mean that Trump isn't getting anything done? No, some of the more critical stuff is being done in other agencies in less recognizable places. And the resistance to getting anything done over at the Justice Department, is certain other political families that have a leash on some people in those places, have something on them, and or I'll just say it, senior executive service, where the real fight's at. And they have the people in these various positions that are very important, including over at Justice. War's on. Trump is bypassing a lot of that stuff with things that are being done. So he bypassed all of the otherwise relatively normal ways of addressing the Tina Peters case and addressed it with a pardon, but utilizing technical people within the inner circle of the White House. At the time he did that, they knew already based on some of the negotiations, that Polis was not going to release Tina, that they were going to challenge anything at the Fed side. So he knew from the second he issued the pardon that the intent from Colorado wasn't to abide by it. But in these types of things, you still have to make the play to get to the next place. You have to go through a certain checkpoint on your way to other stuff. So Trump went through that checkpoint and, issued the pardon. Colorado did what they said they were going to do and said, we don't recognize it. So now there's a bit of a dance that has to happen. It's going to go on for a little bit. Trump has an ace in the hole, and I sent out a letter to all my Gumroad customers, and I try not to abuse that. These are people that have bought over at Gumroad. They were my first customers when I first put out the Kid by the Side of the Road and other stuff. And so, sometimes they go months and months, and I don't do anything. Every once in a while, I'll send a letter out. But during the Tina Peters thing, in the first letter, I said, I'm going to keep you updated over the next days and weeks until this gets resolved. So expect that, if you see it in the email, I'm not just trying to sell something. I'm trying to get Tina out, and I want to keep you guys apprised because you're my first people. And because they are customers from that, I usually say something about silver and what's in there, but I try to keep it to a minimum, just, because I don't want to, it's not like I'm trying to use Tina's situation to sell something. I'm trying to use that as a core group of people that then pass that information along to other people, because they're people, if they bought Kid by the Side of the Road, or if they've bought, some of the other stuff I've had over there, they're probably within the mega community specifically, and this conservative and like that. So they're people that have lots of connections within the broader community. So it's as good a place as any. And I send out, a message in the email concerning what's going on with Tina. Now I asked, and it got passed around other places. And of course I did, probably 40 shows or more concerning Tina's situation. I think it's about 43 now. Over this last month while I've been pushing it hard. And people were calling Polis, they were calling prisons, corrections people, the AG there in Colorado. And then, of course, I had them calling the White House. If you look and you think about what I just told you, that it was initiated from the White House. The calls going to the White House many days over the last month were trending solely Tina. I mean, other stuff was way down the list of even being with the calls coming in. There were a few days where it was closer to even, and they don't give the numbers to the outside, but I'm aware from people what was going on. The reaction in the White House really was, I think, unarguably, because the calls were so consistent, and it was broad, because it wasn't just like one host said something and all their people went and called. It was very across the board. You had people from audiences that I talked to, audiences like Bannon, who pushed very hard on Tina's stuff, and he asked people to call and push the efforts there in Colorado and also at the White House. Many others within their own groups, their Telegrams and X and everything else, Truth Social, pushed very hard so that you couldn't sit at the White House call room receiving the calls and think they're all Glenn Beck people, or 107 or Carmen. It was so across the board. It was so consistent, because they ask you, a couple of questions so you get into an age bracket, certain things that kind of tell them where you're coming from mentality-wise. And they got a broad reach of people, young and old, and hard conservatives, softer conservatives, general purpose, military, etc. They knew how broadly the Americana was reaching out on behalf of Tina, because it is a crime. It's an emergency. Her health is, she's reasonably there this exact second because she's buoyed up by the support, but she was really fading hard and fast. She's kind of, holding on because she knows we're coming. But, cancer's not a fan of whether you're holding on or not. And I think there's a very good likelihood, based on what's going on with her and how she senses it, that cancer is back and they're not getting to her correctly or rightly. Trump started the ball rolling from the White House without anybody else's help. He literally gave the FU to Justice Department. You're not going to do this right. And they screwed us up back in September. Then you're not in. We're not even going to waste time with you. He did it. Now there's other next moves that can be done, including the stuff that shows that he has the legal right to do this. Before we're done, you may very well see 101st Airborne show up at the Colorado prison.
Wow.
And
really?
I'm not actually kidding. We're going to assert federal authority, and they're not going to stop it, and it's going to be a court challenge. What the governor of Colorado should do is he should go ahead and release her to federal custody, which then Trump would say, if I pardoned her, she's free to go, or we'll help her out. We'll use her for assistance in some of these cases we're getting ready to prosecute, and take control for her health issues. He should just relinquish that authority. He's not going to, apparently, and the AG doesn't want to, and everything else. So he wants a fight because he wants to look good to his Democrat buddies and friends and rhinos and everybody else. So with that in mind, because he could cause this to stand down a bit, he wants a standoff with the federales, and he says he'll wait for a court decision. Well, the court's going to take forever. Okay, Tina doesn't have that time. Doesn't have the luxury, even if they're doing it as an emergency. They're months away. So with that in mind, Trump's ace in the hole, beyond the fact that he's asserting that he does have federal authority and the stuff that he did. Look at the letter that Peter Tickton did, who's Tina's lead attorney, President Trump's friend. He did an amazing 4-page letter that lays out everything. Absolutely fantastic. And then Trump had what he needed ammo-wise inside the White House to just go ahead and do it, and, damn the torpedoes full speed ahead. If we can't get the torpedoes to work, we'll just ram them. So Trump's ramming them, put a hole in their side. This captured ship of state of Colorado, pirated by these assholes, who probably aren't there legitimately in the first place. But with that in mind, Trump's ace in the hole is, in fact, what he's about to do, which is the most important thing he will ever do in his entire life. Of all the things that Trump has ever done, other than, father some children for the next generations, which is an amazing thing all by itself. But other than that, the most important thing Trump will ever do in public life, political life, is what he's about to do next. And that is declare a national election emergency. And within the context of that national emergency, he's going to issue an executive order concerning how elections have to be conducted for 2026 and 28. One-day vote, hand count, paper ballot, counted where cast, no transportation of the ballots from the place where you vote at. And setting aside the existing voter rolls, everyone who wants to vote will have to re-sign up. And that's how you get to clean voter rolls. You're not going to be able to clean them externally and blah, 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 all the stuff that people are trying to do. It's just not going to happen. So that's going to be a tsunami wiping out all of the mischief, all of the fraud, all of the, falsity in the way that the elections are currently being operated and held. Then when he does that, the country is going to shrug off this false leadership, these ballots and all sorts of things, ballot measures and things like that are being passed and spending people's money falsely as though they actually voted for it, which is another part of the fraud. It's not just the upper part of the ticket, it's down the ticket. The people are getting on the school boards and then putting through these bond issues that are just absolutely insane. You pay 20 times back in interest what you got in the original bond, and that comes out in property taxes. If I told you that I was going to sell you a widget and then it costs $1 for that widget, but you got to pay me $20 back over the next 20 years. Does that make sense to you? Or 30 years? That's bullshit. Just save up enough to buy it and own it.
Exactly.
And that's why we're going to have trust for a lot of these things and build out of cash that we save up for 3-4 years and then do the projects we want to do. And in fact, you can start to spend the money to get the project started partway through. Even getting a loan, it's not the same as a bond. It's the biggest racket on the planet, and it is funding all of these criminal organizations that are feeding off of the bond market.
Right.
So at the end of the day, when Trump does this executive order concerning the elections, he's going to help us there. But before that, he first has to declare a national emergency, just like when he declared a national emergency for COVID, March 13th of 2020. Then 2 days later, when the show closed up Cheyenne Mountain, started the war, because that's when the war started in earnest between SES, Senior Executive Service, and NORAD. Everything you see right now is all about that. That's why we're coming up on a near-death experience ahead. But when he does that, because it's an emergency around elections and everything to do with elections, you know what he can also do? He can go over there with the 101st Airborne, surround that prison, bring helicopters in on the roof and repel guys in if they don't want to open the door. And I don't care how many state police Colorado has, even their state guard, the 101st broke out at the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
And
that would be one hell of a news story, let me tell you.
Prison. They want to stand off. They want to be there. We had people that went out last night. So there was a certain thing that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And I had been saying, since the pardon was issued, well, you have to formalize the request by showing up at the door, presenting what Trump has as the pardon, and demanding that she be presented so that she can be taken out based on that pardon. If you don't formalize it, they come back later on and say, well, but nobody, we saw it. It was in the press. Somebody sent a thing over. Yeah, but, we weren't sure.
Juanito, if it goes down exactly the way you just painted that picture, this is an award-winning, Academy Award-winning movie on steroids. Seriously.
Well, I suggested, it's not going to happen, but I suggested, President Trump take Air Force One out there and pick her up. landed on the runway, leave the engines running because you don't want to stay there. Keep a guard around it. Send a convoy over to the prison. What to me, what really actually is probably needs to happen, honestly, you need U.S. Marshals and an ambulance and a medical team go over there and stand at the gates of the prison demanding that Tina be brought out. Based on the federal thing, and have to stand up and have the photo opportunity. Let all the tabloids show up. Let all the big press show up.
Yeah. When that happens, my offer stands with Tina Peters, and I told you she can come to Staying Alive at our healing center. She believes in that kind of modality, those kinds of modalities anyway, from based on what you told me. And it does work, and the body really wants to regenerate, etc. I can tell you my offer stands, and we could get her a place nearby for her to take a shower, what have you. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that will donate to that cause.
Yeah, let me just say this. Tina is a babe. She is so beautiful. We enjoyed when we had her over in Hawaii with us for a couple of weeks. And, we've traveled and been with Tina at various places. We had a beautiful family, a friend of ours, gal out in Florida, just a few blocks up from Mar-a-Lago, that had us and Tina out there for a number of days.
Yeah.
She called the other day. We didn't actually connect, but super people, and had so much fun together. Tina is a very stylish person. She was an airline stewardess back in the day when, you had to be a, model perfect type of thing. And,
yes.
And I loved the air crews and all that I deal with, and I file time.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's
still like that in Far East Asia, by the way. You have to be a model,
Yeah.
a model kind broad to work on the airline.
It puts such a high bar for people that are just trying to have a life and have a job, and I'm glad that it evened out. But Tina, this has been brutal for her, and people that have seen her even in the last few weeks, compared to when she went into prison. Prison is harder for women than it is for men.
Sure is.
Women in the prison system age much faster. And it especially, people think she's in the medium or light security prison. No, she isn't. She's in the maximum security prison. That is like a supermax. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That place, they aren't screwing around in there. So anybody that thinks she's in the Club Med prison, no.
Yeah.
Her cellmates, they've moved her from it. But, 6 months ago when we were screaming bloody murder about this, and we actually had recordings of this, and they got mad because she recorded it. But because she just sounded extreme when she said it. Her cellmates were threatening her. They were going to kill her while she was sleeping, stab her to death. One of them says, when you wake up, you won't recognize yourself because I'm going to rearrange your face and while you're sleeping. And that threat was not idle, because that specific prisoner had severely mauled another prisoner. Wow. And damaged her, previously. So, just, mental. And Tina's in there with these people, when she prays, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray, dear Lord, my soul to keep. She's not actually kidding, okay? And the stress of that ages you, just the stress.
Well, let's get her down to Cape Canaveral.
Let me say this. One of my most important things is when we get Tina out, is it's a health thing. It's also emotional, mental health. And, I want to get her out, doll her back up, let her kind of recollect herself. She's lost a tremendous amount of weight, get a baseline on where she's at. She wants to get right back at it and go after the vote stuff, and she has so much she wants to say, but it'll wait a little bit while we get her health kind of under control, and I don't want to tell her what to do. There's 50 people, that all know what she should do next. I want her to be able to kind of figure out what's best and how to approach this, and that's my concerns for Tina. So we just need to get her out and tackle. So the reason is the calls to the White House. They did something important, beautiful, that it didn't get Tina loose that second. Doesn't mean they did anything wrong. They need to be supported. Thank you, President Trump. You did something beautiful. We're right with you, because when he does the election emergency, national security emergency related elections, almost immediately, if you're thinking wait 2 days, no. Literally the next thing on your desk is the orders for 101st. Go out and pick her up. Okay. In fact, I'd be sending him out there and having him staged out there before you sign it. So the second you sign it, they can go up and knock on the prison door. Literally, the people that showed up there yesterday knocked on the door. Wow. and the guards came out. I see you got that. We don't recognize it. The senior person there, comes out. No, we don't recognize it. And they had to start the clock ticking. Let me just add this one thing. If courts later, and they will, when the courts finally recognize that Trump was absolutely correct and that Tina could be brought out on this federal pardon, Colorado is going to have to pay for having kept her incarcerated every second that they kept her after that pardon as a false imprisonment. And the number is a very high number.
Wow.
And it goes up by the hour type of thing. They will have to pay that to Tina. Additionally, where they were doing stuff after that and before, where, you know, there's huge suits coming against the Colorado prison system. They're not running a prison system according to state or federal law. They're out of compliance in so many ways.
Sure.
It's hard to believe. So they're going to have to pay a bunch of money for not just the false imprisonment, but everything else. And by the way, they should never, ever have tried Tina in the first place. They should never have even prosecuted her because she was under federal authorities with what she did. And they knew it. There was 41 motions during the trial that were put in, most of which had to do with the fact that the state didn't have the legal authority to prosecute her for the crimes. And then the jury instructions were of such that the jury didn't really understand what was going on. So I don't blame the jury. With the way the judge framed everything, they thought they were doing what they had to do. But the reality is, at some point, Tina is going to clean their fucking clock. Okay?
I love it.
They are going to pay, and they need to pay. But from my standpoint, it's just paper.
It is.
I want her. And so again, what should we still be doing? Calls to the White House, emails to the White House. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you so much for stepping up in Tina's situation. Stay the course, get this done, get her out, do what you have to do, figure it out, do it. And the figure it out side is they started the process. He wasn't doing what to do with this emergency decree, but her situation's gotten so dire faster that he had to move sooner. And what he also did, just for everybody to know here, you probably saw that they're now doing a federal investigation of the prison system in Colorado that started a couple weeks ago. How are they doing stuff? Are they in compliance? Are they out of compliance with the way that they deal with prisoners? Blah, blah, blah. That investigation is going to find all sorts of stuff. And we have people, in fact, we had a conference call yesterday with a bunch of staff around me that is looking at prosecutions of people involved in the Colorado prison system, including the governor. Not just, slap on the hand. I mean, they knew what they were doing.
Well, the message I left the governor was not very nice. You know that, right?
Say again?
The message I left for the governor of Colorado was not very nice.
Yeah, and, they hear it, they don't hear it, whatever. You know, at the end of the day, here's what I'm saying. For the moment, what we should still be doing as a group is keeping the pressure up over at the governor's office, that let him know we're all watching and that he needs to rethink. I'd be courteous, but I think it's appropriate to rethink. At the very least, release Tina to the feds. You can hold your ground if you want to go through the courts and all that. Hold her ground. She's already been in there for well over a year, plus the years that she spent in the prosecutorial thing. You don't think that was enough for a non-violent crime? Crap, they're letting guys out that have murdered people, guys that have,
precisely
people, and no time served. Tina's never even had a traffic ticket. Can you believe that? Crap, I budget.
Yeah, I do.
She's never even had a traffic ticket.
Yeah. Well, listen. Okay. What I want to say this. What I'm about to say, I want to choose the right words because it's important. As I want to try to keep this to stay under the radar so we can put it on YouTube. You know how Nino is always afraid of YouTube. I'm afraid too, but I'm not as afraid as he is. Right? I'm a little bit more of a loose cannon.
Well, he in Nino's defense, just to say this, YouTube is changing, but Nino had his station taken down a couple of times. Oh yeah, where they were going to permanently ban him. So he had excuse where he had to be careful of what was going on. And he has stayed in there when many others got their station taken down. Jen lost hers for no reason. Okay. And so Nino, being a little gun shy, he's at least been able to stay in the game when most everybody else is not. So I give him credit for, he had good advisors, exercised good judgment, even though it pains me a lot of times because I'm trying to get a message out. But you can't argue with the success. He's
very cautious, and he's got to be, and
appropriately cautious. So
my hat is off to the champ. I've taken a couple of pages out of his book where I go in and I sabotage a lot of my own videos. I self-cannibalize a lot of my own videos. He's done that.
I've warned Nino. Look, Nino knows. I can take you, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. You want? I still got it. But
I love it.
Afraid enough. He won't get in the ring with me.
Yeah. But anyway, needless to say, what I'm about to tell you is this: the center we own in Cape Canaveral is not medical devices, or we have some magic tricks on it. The body is what actually works. I bought a new machine about a week ago, and brother, I feel amazing. Okay, my mental clarity is like through the roof. It reverses all kinds of things. We've had people come in there with stage 4. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, where they couldn't even walk to the bathroom, and they had to have 2 people assist them to walk them 85 feet to the bathroom, etc. And literally, the doctor said, "Listen, go home, get your affairs in order. It's over. You're not going to make it a week from now." And they're still here today by the grace of God, because, they were stubborn. They listened to my advice, even though I'm not giving medical advice. I said, you're going to have to sleep in the system. We have a plasma med bed. Now we have the plasma med bed with noble gas. We have the scalar wave technology. Now we have the Brown's gas, which is hydrogen therapy, which I'm sure Tina knows a lot about, et cetera. So we got all the little tricks and plus we have access to the best naturopathic doctors in the fucking world. Okay, so if she wants to come down, she's more than welcome to. The only thing you have to do is go through you, whatever, and we'll figure it out. That's not a problem. I mean, even if I have to get on a couple of calls with a couple of shows with the champ, and we'll raise her the money for renting her an apartment nearby, and maybe getting her a personal assistant for a couple of months, whatever it takes, we'll make it happen. So now,
I agree. I mean, I know for a fact that if at any moment we have her free and we need some assistance in any way, that I could pick up the phone and talk to you and some of the other hosts, and we'd easily be able to meet whatever needs there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's helpful for Tina to know that we're there.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to end up being necessary or not, I don't know. We'll find out. But
So the door's open, but she's probably have to stay there a few months to really get back up to good health, right? It's not going to be like
this. When somebody has, the general rule is, for every pound you lose in this kind of a sickness or illness or skill set, etc. For a young person, it probably takes twice as long as the time that you were bedridden, let's say, or whatever, to get back to health. When you're older, even if you're relatively healthy going in, the number's more like 4 or 5 times, and then it's questionable you ever get it back fully. So this is why it's so critical to get in there and get Tina taken care of as soon as possible.
Yes.
To minimize the damage.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to, get past. I want the damage.
Yeah. Well, now on a different note, like I said, with Tina, you know what to do when she's out. You'll call me and we'll drop everything and we'll make it happen. And regardless to Charlie Kirk, you know what happened when I released my movie, the shooting we launched on the 9th, on the 10th, the shooting of Charlie Kirk overshadowed the living daylights out of my movie. Still, till today, nobody even knows about Dear Mr. President, the movie, right? We're launching part 2. I'm going to try to figure out a way. I got to talk to my producers and I got to talk to a couple of guys that are part of the team on how I can get a couple of big guys like you and Nino involved. And I have to have a conversation with you off the air, because I don't want to let the people know what it's all about, but what it's about will piss off.
If you need help, I can be bought. I usually prefer the oatmeal raisin. I mean, pretty basic. There's other. I'm open to. I can negotiate if you got something.
Yeah. So, but I want to bring in some people that are out there, and I'm very sure that when you and I have a talk when the record button is not on, that you and I will agree that what I'm bringing to the table is very real. It's been done in every country. And I'm going to piss off 8 billion people providing, and I already saw the first cut of the movie, by the way. We should have the Dear Mr. President Part 2 come out probably late March the latest, mid-March, late March the latest. So, and there's going to be a subtitle to that, which I can't talk about that subtitle because that's a dead giveaway of what it is.
Well, just don't plan it for the few days that I told you I've got that private conference.
When are you doing the private conference?
Third week of March. And
third week of March.
Invitation only.
I'm guessing I'm invited.
Yeah, because it's the stuff on the bond stuff. We'll have all the legal teams in there and like that. So,
okay,
I'll talk about it with your audience and others, maybe the next week or two.
Okay,
if there's people that have the right understanding, location, legal, etc., that want to be there, I'm willing to do that. Allow them to come out. We've got real cheap rates there.
Sure. What do you think of this? What do you think of this fighting with what's his name, Charlie Kirk's wife and Candace Owens that's going on? That's taken over the airwaves.
I did contribute for me a pretty significant amount of money back in the early days of Turning Point. Low six figures to get them moving, and I thought it was fantastic what they were trying to do, going to the young people in the colleges and high schools and all that. And so that seemed like a reasonable thing. I did not contribute after about 3 years ago, I think, because there was things that 4 years ago, there was things that I was not comfortable with. And they continued to escalate. And I think that's stuff that comes out even in what you know of where Charlie was at in the last days before he was murdered. And there were things that just were, they weren't flashing paint, they were flashing neon red to me on a bunch of fronts. It wasn't just the organization. There were some personal things, and there was things that were being promoted that were just non-starters. There's no possible way. And I had private conversations with the right people concerning what I saw as my concerns, and that it was not, it just couldn't stay that direction. I think I was completely right still. And I think the people involved, many of them know that that's actually true. And the reason I made the extra effort, I actually flew cross country at one point and set up a special appointment that was very critical, a couple of them, but one in particular, because I felt so strongly about it. And I kind of paused other stuff I had going, which wasn't convenient, and went out and said, here's the issue. I didn't want to say it over the phone because it just wouldn't have been received the same way. I wanted to say it face to face. And there is some issues over there at Turning Point that, and people involved that I don't think are quite what it was thought or purported to be. And I don't think it was always that way. It was something that kind of evolved as they got more and more into the political realm, and people wanted to capture momentum and take it somewhere else. And so I don't regret one penny that I spent into it early on. I think it was absolutely appropriate with what I knew. It made sense at the time. I still feel that way. I love doing stuff with younger people and helping them understand the world they're coming into. I tease about it, but I'm actually kind of serious when I say, what's the problem with young people? Crap,
There's a
man.
lot. There's a
They're
lot of
taking over
problems.
the world. They're trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
These megalomaniacs with, gray goo in the brain that still isn't even, massaged right yet, are trying to take over the world. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm going to live in a world run by teenagers or former teenagers?
Yeah.
No way. Seriously. They'll want to put me in an old folks home and take away my car keys. Gosh, man. I'm not going to help those people, So, but the reality is now you got to go to the other side of the coin. No, they're taking over the world. You're going to live in the world they have to run. You and I are getting older every day, and they're the ones that are going to have to decide which war they want to go to or not for themselves and their kids. And we're along for the ride because they're taking over the world. They're inheriting it. We need to help them do the job right. That's the whole point. We got to help them. They can't. I don't expect them to figure it out without somebody nudging them. Well, I think about this, or you might want to try that, or you might not want to do that other thing. You got to get in there and help people. What decisions, decision trees would you work up through when, say, you were 23, 24, 25, and you've been voting for a couple of years, versus how would you change, affect, make decisions when you were 33 or 43 or 53?
Right.
And these people are inheriting the world, and they gotta, they won't be, they're in college right now. Look, when we first had the Q operations in the latter part of 2017, a lot of the people that adopted and went in, early adopters and were right on it, were still in their mid-teens, and they were heavily involved, sharing and talking like that. The older ones, the upper end of the main group was about 23 years old.
Right.
And it tapered off. And so the ones that were in their 30s and 40s were only a small percentage of the Q people. And now you look at where that main body is at. The ones that were 23, they're 31 years old. They've probably had their second kid already.
Right.
They've got a business. They've gone out and explored huge swaths of the world and hiked, and they're a different person completely than they were when this whole thing started. And now they're coming back into that mode where they might decide to run for the city council or for the school board. They might start the process where they're involved in some project that can affect where the world's going, science and other things. Where are they going to be in 5-10 years?
Yeah.
If I can affect them when they're high school into early college, and they understand, see where the world's really going, 7, 8, 10 years later, I've got somebody it's mostly because they've even started to think about it. See, it's not that they are not willing to, it just wasn't on their radar. If I can get them to just think about it as the world goes by, one of the things you hear when I talk, I was paying really close attention in the mid-60s with what was going on in Vietnam. I knew and read and was researching and understanding stuff going on in Indonesia. And a lot of the stuff current just from the mainstream news. I knew a lot of these details and some of the alternative that existed because I had access to some of the people that were in those places with different horrors that happened. So it was current for me. Most of what is there, you just have to have your brain turn on and kind of listen a little closer at stuff so that 10 years later, the high school or college student, you start naming events or you start talking about stuff. Yeah, I remember that when it happened. Yeah, I remember what was being said then. They have a point of reference. If they were in a whole different zip code, couldn't care less. When they start paying attention, they're 10 years behind where they could have been with just a little bit of understanding of what's going on in the world right now. The events happening today, younger people are paying closer attention. If we can help them to put it in a context, when we get 10 years down the road, 15, 20 years down the road, that context, they have more to work with mentally to kind of weigh things out. Turning Point's a beautiful concept idea. But there was some capture operations in there, I think, that I'm not comfortable didn't get addressed in the best way. And we have to do something to get that sorted out.
Yeah, that battlefield was choreographed to be very confusing, and nobody could make heads or tails. I don't think the FBI's got the right guy, number one. There's a lot of people saying that Charlie might not be dead. Number two, there's just too many anomalies. There's too many things going on.
There is things wrong in what's going on. Candace isn't wrong on much of the questions you have. And, Candace, she's one of the more articulate people. I enjoy so much some of the stuff that she's done and said. That said, there is a bit of an edge there that is more than I'm comfortable with on some of it. But when you've been kind of, run around a bit for quite a while, you start to get a bit of an edge because you get pissed. So I'm not exactly upset with that. And, no matter what Erica says, there's some things there that are concerning for me. And there's a reason why Charlie's family didn't show up at the funeral. And I'm not comfortable with where we're at on that. There's stuff that's we shouldn't be comfortable that we got the whole story right so far from any side.
I don't believe we do.
No.
I don't believe we do. Well, let me tell you, the whole thing stinks to high heaven. Nobody can make heads or tails. There's 40, 50 anomalies on that thing that people are pointing out that just it makes everybody confused as to what really took place. Candace Owens has got bigger cojones than King Kong, number one. Number two, I think she should call the parents in and say, listen, the news is saying that you guys accepted $1 million for turning your son in. Is that true? No. Great. Let's get it on the air. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. Or is her life maybe, is she the next one to be, Charlie Kirk, if you will?
Oh, I don't think that's the problem. It would not serve anybody's purposes, even to try and shut it down. I think I would be concerned. I'd be careful, but I don't think that's truly a major concern right now.
Well, my friend, this has been one incredible conversation. I am glad that I called you, number one. I'm glad that I said, the best podcasts in the world never get recorded. And I hit the record button, and it turned out to be an incredible, incredible podcast. And we're going to probably have it out here. I'm going to try to get my editor to have it to me within 24 hours, and I'll send you a copy. Guys, the Jennifer
Well, you
Mack.
did mess me up because I was going to pull the Cobra out and take it around the block, but now it's too cold and dark, and I have two trucks in the way.
Don't tell me it's one of the originals. Do not tell me it's not the original, is it?
Oh no, this is a
replica.
No, this is I've had one for a long time, very long time.
Well, there's a few companies that
I won't pull it up.
Yeah, there's a few companies that make replica. One is Factory 5. Another one.
I know those guys a little bit within. Some of those are just unbelievable cars. Like the Factory 5 car, I think it's longer in the doors. They've made it more comfortable. Stays in the same speed. And,
right.
and of course the guy that built that system out and did it actually worked for Carroll back in the day.
Yeah. And then there's another company that makes it in aluminum. There's only one company. I can't think of the name of it. It's got the name.
They do the body in aluminum. And in fact, they're doing it out of England. But, I looked at, and I'm still thinking about it, just the country's in a tough spot. The best guys to do aluminum bodies on planet Earth are in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah. And they do things with aluminum that are just unbelievable. And I have a couple projects I'd like to do, but at this exact moment, we got to get the country saved, the planet.
Oh my God, there's so much work to do, brother. There is so much work to do.
But I would like to actually have the guys in South Africa. I have a couple things I want to do. And there's one particular one I haven't sprung on it because we're doing everything we can. There's no extra pennies in the box to do it, but there's one that I would really like to do out of South Africa that we get the country going in the right direction again. And I'd love to.
Are you allowed to reveal is home base Hawaii for you? Is that your home base, or is that?
No, we spend several months a year out there, and so we've been there off and on all through this year. But I've got stuff in South America that we've got to do, and so I think we'll spend a bit of time there. I want to go over to Australia. I've got a friend that is actually filming over in Australia a movie about still living congressional Medal of Honor winner, what he did in Vietnam and that whole thing. And so hopefully we're going to get there while they're still filming. They're filming out through February. And so I'm hoping that we'll get free to go down there just before they finish that. And then there's, other stuff, the bond conference that I want to do. And there's some other things that are just going to need attention all year. This is an election year. And so
give me like 2 weeks heads up and I'll be there in Vegas for that one.
I still want to, and we'll talk to your audience. There may be a few people that have the right location or access or credentialing that would be the right ones to be there. It's invitation only, and we only have a certain number of spaces, so we'll be pretty hard on that, and a couple of media people. I don't want everybody there. I just don't have time for it and room for it. And we're going to be dealing with some very serious stuff as we look at how to address some of these things. You saw the first shot across the bow in Illinois, where the court found that the property taxes are being done illegally. And there's aspects of the bond thing in there because, of course, you're paying taxes tied to bonds. Your property's being levied, and it all ties into bond stuff.
Do you think DeSanctimonious is going to be successful here in Florida, eliminating property taxes? I mean, we got a lot of people yelling, which I suspect are the people that are skimming off the top, okay, that are yelling and screaming that you can't stop property taxes.
Well, you can stop property taxes, and you can do it. Look, here's the really, really short way of looking at it. You have lots of these projects where literally they put out a bond, levy it against the property owners, say for a school. In California, they're limited to 4 times the original bond amount on schools. So if you issue a bond for $100 million, over the life of the bond, which is limited to 24 years and 8%, you cannot have a project that's going to cost more than 4 times the money you receive to pay back. You cannot do that. They're doing it all over the place. We've got examples. One of the ones that's the most egregious, but there's actually several of them in this category. Over 20 times more money has to be paid back than was lent into the project. So that means that if you're a business person, if I'm counseling a young couple or something from time to time, people that I talk to, kids, you're trying to help them out, get their start. they got to have a big down payment for the house, and they get parents and in-laws and, whatever to get the down payment. So they're not paying for a rental or whatever, which is usually about the same or more than what the down payment or what the monthly is for a house. So they go out there and they get enough for the down payment, and then they're making these huge payments for the house every month, but it's the same or less than an apartment or condo, and they get a tax write-off and all this other encouraging stuff. The reality is, when prices are too far out there, even though you are paying rent for somewhere you're at, you are paying the lease, you're not having to do necessarily the maintenance or other stuff, blah, blah, blah. If you invest that money and save up, and then just go cash outright, buy a house, or even if you've got half down, you get the better rates and things like that. When you do that, over your lifetime, the money that you have available for other investments is radically more. If we created school trusts for new school facilities and levied the taxes for 5 years and put it in the trust, and when we're, say, half full on that, instead of doing a bond, we could even just go and get a loan for the balance if you had to, a low interest loan. But with the trust, you take the money from the trust and you buy what you actually want to do. And people, when you have money in your pocket, you probably notice this. You see it like in car sales all the time. If you have to get a loan, you want the car with every last thing on it. They're going to give you credit for it. You bump it up and do, all the bells and whistles. If you have cash in your pocket, you're watching because you got that much and that's what you got to buy, and you get a sharp pencil. You still want all the bells and whistles, but you work the problem. Or when they know you got cash, they'll talk a big game, but they want that cash. And so you can negotiate better. If we just had school funding trusts, and we fund that trust, and they can rebuild buildings, build new buildings, add new sports stuff, whatever they want to do, and they're doing it cash out of pocket, you're not paying a bunch of bond money interest for 20 years. You're not paying somebody else ridiculous amounts. So the bond money with interest rates down there at 4 and 5%, they're paying bond rates up there 8 to 12.
Right.
Okay. Well, because you don't have any money, we're just.
Well, you want to do the same thing that Trump is doing with the newborns, right? Is that where you're headed?
I want to have trust accounts,
right,
that pay all the stuff that's pre-funded. I don't have to go to any banker for the money. Right. I don't want to have to go to the property owners and levy a tax against them for 30 and 40 years. It's wrong. And, by the way, if you do it as trust accounts, people donate for colleges and other stuff all the time to get tax credit. If you had a trust account for a school district and you want to build a pool, there's people that have means, that grew up in an area, they're tied to it, they want to do it, they'll donate. They'll donate significant amounts of money to make something happen because, they love you.
Yeah, of course.
But if it's just being bonded out and everything else, and you're not going to get any credit for it anyway, why would you do that? So they don't do it because there's not an option available to them. Yeah. You create the trust accounts and stop with this property tax. Yeah, we'll buy it. Instead of paying for it, you're paying 20 times what the actual value of the thing is, and it's probably broken down and not working right anyway by the time you get out 20 years. You just pay for it cash outright. You own it. It's done. You don't have to guess it. I don't have to ruin the property owner's life over 20 years to fund something that we could just, instead of, if I don't have the cash to buy it, we save up till we can afford to buy it.
Juan, would you ever run for president?
No, I'd be a horrible president.
Really? Why would you say that?
No, I'd have Yeah, well, let me just tell you what Trump actually does need to do right now. And I know that he's been told this, but I think it's again. Reagan did a handful of Oval Office things. Now, Trump tends to, he speaks at the rallies, he invites people into the Oval Office when he's signing something and lets everybody talk, and it's a conclave and like that. But that's not what I think is appropriate right this second. When he does the national election emergency declaration, he doesn't need anybody else around him.
Right.
He doesn't need a bunch of cheerleaders there. I think he needs to talk to the country. He needs to do a Reagan Oval Office thing, and it better not be the Jimmy Carter one with the cardigan sweater. Oh my gosh. We're all going to have to tighten up. We're all going to have to turn down the thermostat, drive 50 miles an hour. Do you know when the oil crisis started, the top speed in America was 50 miles an hour. Do you know what it was like with freeways built to go 80 and cars built to go 100?
Right.
Drive 50 miles an hour. And if you went 52, somebody was right there to pull in front of you and make you slow down.
Oh, yeah.
Some guy with 4 kids in the car and his wife with her arms crossed and giving you the evil eye because you went 52. You're not in the spirit of it. Shoot, my car, uses 4 gallons of gas more per 100 miles when it's going 50 than it does if it's going 75.
Exactly.
Anyway, Carter did his Oval Office stuff. Trump, we love him.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
He needs to do an Oval Office. Nobody else around. No, attaboy, yes people in the room with them. That's for different stuff. And just talk to America. Here's where we're at. Here's what we got to do. Here's where we got to close it up. Work together. We struggle with some of these agencies and agency heads. We're going to chop some of them off. We're going to try to control the other ones and move on. Talk to us. I think the American people will appreciate it. There'll be plenty of detractors. They're always there. But those of us that are, voted for them, got them into office, it's not a State of the Union to Congress. It's something different. Give us an Oval Office. I do it at Christmas time this year. Here's where I'm at. Here's what I've just done. Here's even on the executive order on elections. We have the guys here in the U.S. That actually cooked the election 2020. They're giving affidavits, testimony. They've testified before grand juries already. And this is why we're doing it. Most of the country, even people that don't like him exactly, will get it. And I would mention Tina Peters. Crap, I'd do the don't do it in the Oval Office, do it Franken in the Air Force One. On your way back with Tina. You could do it in Air Force One on the way. We're landing now here in Colorado. I've got to cut this short. 101st Airborne is going over to pick up Tina, and she'll meet me at the airport there. They're going to helicopter her out, So anyway, and if you
would still make a hell of a movie. Would still make a hell of a movie.
If your people didn't read the thing that I did on on Tina, and talking about the Battle of the Bulge, there was
you put it on X. Version. It was posted on X.
They didn't post the full one. They cut it off and didn't put everything in there. It's like, oh fuck!
Really?
So pissed off. Yeah, and then
send it to me. Send it to me, and I'll get it out there.
All the way. Yeah, because you know what? I think you got to think of that. What I shared there in the context of this exact moment, including where Trump's at and the stuff he's doing and the advisors. Look, one thing Trump did, when we talked about this with Tina, I said, figure it out. If you've got lousy attorneys and advisors that aren't giving you the right word, push them to the curb and get other ones in there that do. You know what he did? He did just that. He didn't even include one person or their opinion from the Justice Department. The Justice Department people to the very top, all the way to Bondi, had zero clue that Trump was issuing a pardon for Tina. He did exactly what we asked him to do.
Nice.
Not because we did it. He has good instincts. He did what was needed. He kicked him to the curb and went and figured it out and got other people in there that gave him the right information on which he could make a decision, and he's done it. So anyway, I don't drink.
Juanito, you and I have one dear friend in common by the name of Louis Herms, who's running for governor of California. As a matter of fact, I wrote him a business plan, and he was so impressed by it that he said, I told him, I said, look, if you get the right team of people to be able to make that business plan come alive and execute like a very fine, choreographed ballet, there's nobody in California that stands a chance. He agrees. And you and I have one thing in common, and maybe you, your wife, and my wife, all four of us have one thing in common. We like California so much that if California was running on all cylinders, that would be my very first choice of place where I would live in Southern California all day long. I love California. From a landscape standpoint, there's nothing more pretty than California, period. And I've been everywhere.
I love California, yeah.
So,
in fact, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but Jen and I are going to take about 4 days here, not too far out. We've kind of cut it off for ourselves, just going to take 4 days. And one of my convertibles had a kind of an extensive service on it, so we're going to take it up the coast a little bit, go up to San Simeon and the highway up there.
Santa Barbara?
Well, Santa Barbara, I used to live in Montecito.
Yeah. Well, I took Amber down the coast, Laguna Beach, and she was impressed. She's like, oh, my God, this is beautiful, And it is.
Well, years ago, I had to recover I had some injuries. And so I got back to San Diego. And when they let me out of the hospital, I had one of my convertibles there. And I prefer convertibles. I like to put stock on.
Yeah.
I had a ultra rare 65 Shelby convertible. They only made a dozen of them. And so I drove that up the coast from San Diego, and I stayed not just on 101, but I stayed on 1 all the way everywhere.
Wow.
And there was one stretch from one of the military bases where it was literally, I got on it was dirt road, turned into sandy beach, but I was so low on gas because I just had the regular tank in there, and I didn't have super range. I couldn't go back. I thought, it's gotta get, I didn't know. You just had maps in those days. You didn't have, all the stuff we have now. Didn't have cell phones. And I stayed on it. Almost got the car buried in the sand at one point. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to explain this to the insurance company? And it was pretty epic. But I stayed on 1 all the way through Northern California, got the pictures with my car in the middle of the big cedar tree where you could drive through the base of it and get pictures. I got those pictures today. And then I stayed on the coast all the way up to La Push up in Washington and around by Crescent Lake and back in all the way up to Vancouver, BC. Came across on one of the ferries because I didn't want to go through towns, and then continued up through Whidbey Island and up that way to the Marine base up there, visited friends, and then stayed on the coast all the way up to Canada, into Canada to Powell Lake, which is behind a dam, shortest river in North America, quarter of a mile or half a mile or something, and canoed up there, Powell Lake and all that. That stretch and that drive was one of the most enjoyable drives I ever done. Did it by myself, just enjoyed it. It took about a month while I was recovering. And I remember it, very frequently. If I was going to get to do a drive, I wanted to do it on a motorcycle.
Wow.
A couple of times, never got the chance. But and then I'd love to do it even now with all the traffic and everything. I love riding the bikes, but with the wife and everything.
Yeah, it's the best weather pattern in the world. With the technology that they're going to release, Juan, I'm pretty sure they could clean up the atmosphere very, very quickly. The new, medical, not medical, I would more call it like age enhancement technology, okay, or life extension technology, if you will, that's coming. We can create heaven on earth, but there's still a lot of work to be done. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Still a lot of work to be done. And you should think about coming to Staying Alive and charging up, man. You're going all the time, and you need to, pull over sometime and pull in the charging station in Cape Canaveral. You come down to freaking Titusville. You don't come see me.
Yeah.
Well,
I was on a.
I know you were on classified business. Yeah, I know. Yeah, what do you think of your guy coming out of the closet there? What's his name? The guy who Overstock.com.
Paul, Pat.
Patrick Byrne.
Well,
does it shock you? Or you knew anyway?
I know.
You knew anyway.
No, you can't operate in those realms without being. You got to have a certain amount of cover, but you have to remember the context of what he was saying there.
Yeah. Well, does it shock you that he came out of the closet?
Well, out of the closet implies some
CIA operative, right? Worked for
all he did is he acknowledged that at a certain point, he had been asked to provide assistance to the U.S. government as a businessman, and he did. And some of the connections at a certain point, they needed to formalize it because they wanted to check a box or two for the way that information is funneled, and also for liability. If he so much as did the tiniest thing wrong, now they got him. So in order to kind of keep him under their thumb, they asked him to do a certain thing and formalize his relationship, and he did.
Right.
I personally wouldn't probably have recommended it because at the end of the day, they couldn't have forced it and they still needed him. But, what somebody else second guesses years later in a different situation, you're not there. He made what decision needed to be made and he got it done. And his service to the country is almost without comparison in this modern era. I think it will be, a generation from now or two when we have more of the facts of everything that's occurred over the last several decades before you can fully even put his work into a context. And then, Patrick's Patrick. he's a character and a half.
He's a piece of work, I tell you. I was talking to my good friend Joey Weeks, who's they moved him, the guy that's got the ankle bracelet with the Bitcoin story. I'm sure you know the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they moved him up now to West Palm Beach or Palm Beach, and he's like, "Hey, I got Patrick Byrne over here." I said, Put your camera on. I said, Joby, I'm not wearing a shirt. He goes, don't worry about it. Neither am I. He goes, put your camera on. So the very first meeting with Patrick Byrne, I'm not wearing his shirt. Imagine. So I'm going to have him on the show one of these days. I'm sure that, he said that he'll hook me up. Joby's got, a lot of contacts, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this has been one hell of an interview, my friend. Even though it's just a real telephone conversation, a bunch of guys just kicking it, right? I had fun, and I will tell you that I look forward to seeing you in Vegas in March.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll make the release of the movie the same time you're having your thing. We'll see. We'll got to kick it around.
Sure. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Brother, it was such a pleasure. Let's talk soon.
All right. Fair enough.
Thank you, brother.
All right.